Hey, what's up? This is Dave Mira, and you're listening to The Expansion Project.
Hello everyone and welcome back to The Expansion Project. I'm your host, Fat Tony. In this show I have casual yet deep conversations with professional athletes, entrepreneurs, coaches, investors, authors, and really anybody that I deem successful in hopes of expanding my mind and yours while motivating and inspiring people along the way. Today I got the opportunity to talk to K-Rob, Kevin Robinson, who is a retired BMX rider, and if you're not in the BMX world, then you should know that he has a ton of X Games gold medals, and he was the first rider to ever do a double flair, which is 2 backflips and a 180 on a big vert ramp. And now that he's retired, he has his hands in a lot of different things, and he's wearing a lot of different hats. He runs a foundation that gives back to local kids. He recently opened up a skatepark. He's partners in a company that makes protective gear, and he does motivational speaking. On top of that, he's a black belt in Tae Kwon Do and teaches karate classes, and he's a husband and has 3 children. We started off the conversation talking about all about his fitness because he does CrossFit style training, but he used to be a really jacked up and huge dude. He actually gained over 100 pounds in a span of many years after he graduated high school. So we talked about his fitness, and then we talked about his businesses. And as much as I love talking about businesses, everything came back with K-Rob to his passion and his positivity and just the fact that he's just a really good dude, and he just inspires a lot of people. And I was inspired by the conversation and really learned a lot about him, including the fact that he knows how to sew and the fact that he likes country music. And if you want to know what his song would be if he was to sing at a karaoke bar, we found out that as well. So here we go with the K-Rob interview. Before introducing the guest today, I want to take a few minutes to let you guys know, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, definitely go check that out. I interviewed Dave Mira, and he had so much cool stuff to talk about. I mean, he dropped some crazy one-liner quotes that was really powerful. He talked all about his triathlon training, and he talked about his business mind too. Another thing I wanted to say before I start this show today is thank you guys so much for the feedback. It might sound like I'm blowing smoke out of my ass, but seriously, guys, the feedback has been incredible. I've had Facebook messages, tweets, Instagram posts, text messages, emails, and people have written in from Australia, Finland, Netherlands, the UK, Canada, and all over the US. And, these have been pros and veteran BMX riders, as well as just random people that I either know from, my travels or maybe people that I don't even know. So, again, the feedback has been great, and I cannot thank you guys enough for all the support. With that said, if you do have any positive feedback, I would love it if you went to iTunes and left a review on the page. And that's just not to build up my ego. I think the way it works is that if you leave a review, it gets bumped up in the iTunes ratings and standings, and other people will see the show. And the goal here is to reach as many people as possible. So if you guys help spread the word by that, that'll help everybody out. While you're there at iTunes, please give the show a 5-star rating. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and read a few of the reviews that other people have left. So Donnie G wrote, "Good stuff. I really enjoy the interviews and all the guests you have. Great stories and advice throughout. Keep doing what you're doing." So thanks, Donnie G, for that one. And my buddy on the East Coast, Dan Brown, wrote, "Fat Tony does a great job of getting insight and experiences from some of the top athletes and business minds in the world. Nice work and enjoy the show. Keep it up." So thanks to Donnie G and Dan Brown. Again, if you guys want to go leave a review on iTunes, I'll read it here on the show as well. Also, a few people pointed out that they started to listen to the show on YouTube and then clicked off of it just because it was a little bit too long. Well, it's kind of on YouTube just for those that don't have maybe an iPhone or something. So the point of a podcast is that you can listen to it on the go. So anybody listening to this on YouTube right now, I suggest clicking off of there, go pick up your iPhone, click on the purple podcast app, search for The Expansion Project. It'll pop right up, and then you can download the episodes. You can listen to it in your car while you're driving, at work, while you're working on your car. Anytime you've got your phone with you, you can listen to the podcast. Also, negative feedback is welcome. If you guys don't like anything or have some constructive criticism, shoot me an email, send me a text message, whatever you want. This is all trying to make the show better. Another way you can help out the show is clicking on the Amazon banner on the website, theexpansionprojectpodcast.com. And the way that is set up is that when you buy something from Amazon, it kicks back a few cents to me. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and it's just going to it's going to help keep the show rolling. Also on the website, I set up an Amazon store with a lot of my favorite products and some of the things that I buy on a regular basis. So that's on the website. You can check that out. And of course, you can also just help the show out by telling a friend. So post it on your social networks, tell somebody that you're having a conversation with about it, and get them to download it as well. So with all the business out of the way, I'm finally going to introduce my guest. Kevin Robinson has been hanging on the line for a few minutes here, and I've got him on the phone today because Skype was having some serious issues. So welcome, Kevin Robinson.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So I'm going to go down a quick list of stats just to make sure I have all my ducks in a row here as far as your credentials and stuff. So stop me if I'm wrong, or feel free to throw in anything extra if you feel inclined. So you've got 10 X Games medals total, and 4 of those are gold, and that is in vert and big air. We've got you were the first rider to ever do a double flair. Was that the first ever, or first in competition, or both?
Both.
All right.
Ever and anything.
Cool. So that was at X Games Best Trick. I was actually there. That was super cool. You have 18 X Games appearances before you retired from competition in 2003. You started a safety gear company called Grinds, which we're going to talk about as well on the show. You do hold the world record for the highest air on a quarter pipe at 27 feet out of a 27-foot ramp. You have a black belt in Tae Kwon Do. Is that correct?
First degree.
Nice. And you've got an event company that does shows and demos and motivational talks. You opened up a skate park pretty recently in Rhode Island called Impact. You have a foundation in your name. You've done on-air commentary for X Games and other events. And to cap it all off, you're a husband and you have 3 children.
Wow, I'm awesome.
Yeah. So if you ever want to feel really good about yourself, have somebody write up your credentials and read them off to you. Cool. So now that we know who you are and what your accolades are, let's get into a little bit of the backstory here. Can you talk about kind of retiring from BMX? You had a super long professional career and you walked away from the ramp for the last time in 2013. Tell me a little bit about retiring as a professional.
Yeah, it got to the point where I still to this day, I probably ride more now than I was a few years ago. And it got to the point where I just wasn't enjoying being at contests anymore. It was kind of like, been there, done that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've done this. What am I going to prove? And then it got to just where I don't have the ability to put on the governor and take it easy, or just kind of, I don't have that mindset to be able to like do a contest run. Like for me, every time I got on my bike, it's push the progression, push my progression, push myself past my limits, and give it everything I've got every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And it just started catching up with me. My hip was getting really bad, and I started getting knocked out pretty easily, and I just kind of had to start thinking like a dad, and realize I have 3 kids that rely on their father, and so it just became time that it wasn't even so much as stepping away from competition, but just kind of moving on to the next step,
Mm-hmm.
and it was one of the best choices ever made.
And by next step, you're talking about being more of a father figure. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, well, more next step in my BMX world,
Mm-hmm.
It was more about just doing. I've always been the person that just wants to follow my own path and do what I want to do. And, it got to where it was just, I was done with that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I competed, I've been competing as a pro for 20 years, and, I'm like, what else can I do at this point? I've done everything. I've accomplished everything that I've ever, went above and beyond anything I ever expected to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And, what more am I going to do? And I don't want to be that guy that's just hanging on and I'm out there, now all of a sudden people are starting to feel bad for me. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So, I said, why don't I go out while I'm on top? And I just came back the year before from, some gnarly shoulder injuries, and, came back and got a bronze medal. So I was like, you know what, that's a good story to end it on. So.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about some of those injuries. I know you did have some pretty bad injuries there. And how those played into that decision, and maybe how those injuries are kind of playing into your life currently.
Yeah, I've had 45 orthopedic procedures, so it's, I've been under the knife more than more than most.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, with my shoulder, my shoulder actually feels great now. My hip was getting bad. I got to where I couldn't even, I actually felt most comfortable when I was on my bike.
Mm-hmm.
And my bike was almost my wheelchair. And, but I had a hip resurfacing, which is pretty similar to a hip replacement. It just, there's less bone removal. So it's a little, I keep a little more of my original bone, but otherwise it's pretty much the same procedure. And I got to tell you, I feel better now than I have in probably 5 years. Plus I used to lift real heavy. I was a lot bigger, and just carrying all that muscle weight around, and it was just starting to get taxing on my joints, and I just couldn't, I was just in pain so much. And I adopted a whole new philosophy of working out. It's been about 5 years now. I dropped the weight. I started doing, it's now called CrossFit. I started doing that more of a style of working out. And I got to tell you too, one of my sponsors, who didn't start out as one of my sponsors, that was just a product that I use, was Play Again Now. And it's a joint lubricant company, it's hyaluronic acid, natural joint lubricant, and the stuff has just helped me immensely. And
what exactly is that stuff? I know I've seen the logo and I can picture the package, but I'm not exactly sure what it does.
Yeah, it's hyaluronic acid. So it's a natural joint lubricant that's already in your body. Mm-hmm. And as you grow older, your body stops producing it. So it just replenishes it. It also has MSM in it as well. And it's absorbed through your throat gland, so it doesn't have to go through your gastrointestinal system. And it's immediately your body absorbs it. It takes about 2 weeks to get in your system. And I tried it for like 2 months to see if it was like a placebo effect. And then I got off it. I couldn't believe all the little aches and all the little pains that are coming back. And I've been on it now for a couple of years, for almost 2 years.
Wow, that's interesting.
It's all natural. It's approved by the Olympic Committee, so there's nothing. There's no nothing dangerous in there.
Right. Quickly going back to the BMX scene, do you follow what's going on still? Are you kind of active in, checking out who's doing what in the contest scene, or keeping up with videos or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. Especially being an analyst for ESPN, I got to kind of stay on top of that game and see who's doing what, and watching the riders that are progressing. There's so many young, talented riders. I'm a huge Kevin Peraza fan, and just watching him progress, and just go from a boy to growing up to a man, and just watching him be able to handle his bike that way. It's so impressive.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So you started talking about some of the fitness stuff, so I definitely want to talk a bit more about that. Can you tell me what is your background in fitness? And I'll preface this with saying, and also you just mentioned kind of being bigger, and for a while within the BMX community, I think you were sort of thought of as, one of the jock type of guys. You were, lifting weights, you were pretty big. You had this, almost bodybuilder type persona to you. So I know you were into that for a while, and you mentioned kind of getting into more of the CrossFit type of thing. So tell me a little bit of your background with your personal fitness journey.
It's pretty funny. Like I graduated high school at 118 pounds.
Oh, wow.
I was a scrawny little kid, and I started lifting because I was getting hurt all the time. And, I definitely wasn't a jock. I got picked on by the jocks and got bullied by the jocks. And, fortunately I had a couple guys that, I had older brothers that stuck up for me, I got tired of getting hurt. So I started lifting weight to put on some muscle to try to protect myself, and I was in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm. And that was protecting yourself from getting hurt when you were riding? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, from getting hurt riding.
Okay.
'Cause, that's all I did was ride my bike. Between that and karate, I started taking karate when I was 18, and just the two things, like I just was getting hurt all the time, and even with karate when I was fighting, like it just, every kick and every punch hurt. So just started trying to pack on a little bit of size, and then it just became, with everything I do, everything becomes almost like an obsession.
Mm-hmm.
I think any professional athlete kind of has that mentality.
For sure.
We don't have the ability to, I can, even with you, like I can watch you working out, like it just becomes like this obsession that you have to be at the pinnacle of everything,
mm-hmm.
So I think I fell in love with the idea and the sport of bodybuilding, or just more of just transforming my body into what I could imagine it being,
mm-hmm.
I think I probably got a little bit into like the bigorexia, where it's almost like the opposite of anorexia.
Mm-hmm.
You don't ever feel big enough, and
What was the biggest you ever got up to?
My heaviest was 212.
Wow, from 118 in high school to 212. Jesus.
Yeah.
That's some size, man.
But that was over the course of like 17 years. So,
right.
And it was a lot. It was 9 meals a day, and sometimes working out twice a day, and living in the gym, 6 days a week. And, I was so committed to it, but then when I was done with it, I was done. I spent a whole summer basically eating donuts and not going to the gym, because the only way I could ever refocus and do something different was to kind of step away from it completely for a bit and then reframe my mind. And now I can't. Now it's funny because now I see those kind of kids working out and just sitting there doing doing the 5 sets and 8 reps and heavy weight and take 2 hours from the workout, and I could never do that now.
So at that time, that's the type of workout that you were doing, was kind of traditional free weights and machines and just isolation movements and stuff?
Yeah, chest, and then, chest, back, legs, arms, shoulders, calves and abs, fortunately, Tom Stover, who's, another BMXer, who's one of my best friends, and, him and I just lived in the gym together.
Nice.
So, and it was funny because I got made fun of so much in the BMX community, like, oh, Rob's really working out, everything else. And I'm like, I'm not doing this because I want to look good walking down the street. I'm doing this to protect my body, and it's more about just, I loved learning about my body and how I can manipulate it to do the things I was making it do. And it's never about an appearance ever. And, it's funny, all the people that used to make comments and everything else, and all of a sudden this workout craze came, and you start seeing guys showing up that are working out, and they're starting to lift, and they're starting to, I knew it would catch on. So I feel like I was maybe ahead of the time a little bit.
So for anybody listening that might not really know much about it, how would you tell somebody that hasn't worked out, that rides BMX, how would you explain to them the importance of working out as it relates to them riding and, creating a longer career possibly, or just, preventing injuries or recovering from injuries faster? What would you tell that person?
One of the first things is you have to take care of your body. Your body's a fine-tuned machine. The human body is just an amazing specimen to me. And it can heal itself. Which blows my mind. But you have to protect it, and you have to take care of it. It's like a car. You have to change the oil in it, and if you just constantly beat on it and constantly wear it down, it's going to be short-lived. You're gonna kill your machine. So for me, I always just tell people, start slow and set small goals. You get these people that say, I'm going to start working out in New Year's. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start eating right. I'm going to start doing this. Within a month, they're burnt out. And I always say, just start off small. Say, tomorrow I'm going to work out, and I'm going to try to eat well tomorrow. And if you get through the day, great. The next day, do it again. Then before you know it, you set a week goal. And it's funny how much different you'll notice when you get injured. For me, that was a big part of it, was, like I had said, was to protect myself from getting injury, but also to recover from injury. I've had so many injuries, and I feel amazing. And I look at people that get 1, 2 or 3 of the injuries I've had, and they're like they're on their bed. Oh, I can't work anymore. I'm done. And it's amazing what you can just push. Your mind can push your body to do. Your mind and your heart, what they can push your body to do is just unbelievable to me.
So what does your training look like now? I know you mentioned it's sort of like CrossFit, and you've been doing that kind of before the CrossFit craze kicked in. Are you working with a personal trainer with that kind of stuff? And, and maybe describe to somebody that doesn't follow you on Instagram or something, what does your training look like these days?
So I switch it up quite a bit. Karate, like I said, I'm a first degree black belt in Tae Kwon Do, and I'm an instructor. So I teach, but I also still take class. And so that's obviously a lot of cardio. But I do teach station night at karate, so we do a lot of strength conditioning, but it's a lot of all the strength conditioning I do is to incorporate movements that you do during karate. If it's jumping, spinning, kicking, punching, using your body weight to put all your body weight behind the punches, all the things I do is constructed to strengthen those parts of your body. And with my trainer, we mix it up quite a bit. We do some days where I'm lifting real heavy, but everything I do is usually on an unstable surface, whether it's on a Bosu ball or yoga ball, or sometimes I'm deadlifting just normal, but sometimes I'm deadlifting on a Bosu ball, and just incorporating all those stabilizer muscles. And some days it's he has me just doing a lot of plyometric stuff, or it's a lot of balance stuff, or it's like box jumps, and he mixes it up. It's never the same workout, and that's what makes the workout the hardest. Is if I go to the gym by myself and I go work out, I know when I go to the gym what's in my head and what I'm going to do for that day. When I go see him, I don't know what he's going to do. So every next thing that he has me do, I'm like, what's going to be now? What's going to be now?
Yeah. How many days a week are you with the actual trainer as opposed to by yourself or in the karate class?
Usually I'm with my trainer like 2 to 3 days a week, and then on my own the other days. I try to work out at least 5 days a week in some sort of fashion.
Nice.
So I actually have a backyard workout that I do every so often, like on my kid's swing set. That's what I love now. I have a salmon ladder I built in my backyard.
Oh, cool.
If it's something that even just using the kids' swings or using their monkey bars and just coming up with all these kind of different ideas, I love just getting creative.
That's awesome, man. I love hearing about adults that like to play. How old are you now, by the way?
Yeah. What's that?
How old are you?
I'm 43.
Okay, 43 and still playing around on the kids' monkey bars, man. I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's pretty fun.
You were talking about your kind of pains and your injuries and stuff, and you haven't felt better. Can you elaborate on that a little bit and just kind of talk about how you feel now with your injuries, or your previous injuries, I should say?
Yeah, obviously my hip is the biggest one that I just had done, a little over about a year and 4 months ago. And I had the hip done, and it feels amazing, and I love my doctor kind of follows me and he sees what I'm doing, and I get messages from him every so often. He's like, I have never had any. You're my new person to show people, like, look what this can do. And I think that's just any athlete or any professional athlete or any person that is always trying to push their self beyond what everybody thinks they can do. You're always kind of pushing things to the limit. And my mindset is, well, if I wreck it, I'll just go in and get a full hip replacement. So I was like, I always have a backup in my head. I said, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'd rather live my life to the fullest every day to the max that I can, a little bit shorter than just to kind of drag it out and not enjoy myself.
Yeah, for sure. I think Matt Hoffman had a pretty good quote at some point about, using his body like money or something, where, if you go to the grave, and I'm totally butchering this Matt Hoffman quote, so somebody maybe can point it out, but something to the effect, if you go to the grave and your body's still intact, then, you didn't live a good enough life or something. It's kind of like a wasted body at that point.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And for me, I always loved the challenge of doing that, being able to beat my body to the pulp, but then making it resurrect, and getting it back to even better than it was. I have some serious left ankle issues. My doctor's like, if you're lucky, you have 5 more years and you need an ankle replacement.
Wow.
And I'm like, all right, I'll bring it on.
Yeah.
He's like, well, you don't know what they can really do yet. I'm like, oh, I'll be the one to find out. So I just don't let that stuff. I don't let that stuff play in my head.
Yeah. Speaking about playing in your head, tell me a little bit more about karate, and maybe we can start off with. So you do Tae Kwon Do. That's the type of karate you do. I don't know very much about the difference between Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Tae Kwon Do, and Muay Thai or any other martial arts. So somebody that's a complete newbie, what is kind of the couple sentence short version of what Tae Kwon Do actually is, or how it's different from other types of martial arts?
Well, Tae Kwon Do is a lot of kicking. It's 80% feet and 20% hands at a traditional school. So it's a lot of spinning, jumping type kicks that you see like in movies and things like that.
Sounds fun.
It's fun. I did a lot of that when I was younger, but as I've grown and I've had to deal with injuries, I can't jump and spin do spinning kicks, and you know, your quickest way to your target is straight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you know, I've readapted my whole philosophy on fighting. You know, my school is a full contact school, so it's full contact to the head. You know, so we have fight nights every Thursday night. So you're fighting, you're getting punched in the head, and you're punching people in the head, and
mm-hmm.
you know, so it's the real deal. You know, and you know, my son Kevin Jr. takes it. He's a third-degree brown belt. You know, and I just love watching him be able to do that, be able to get that fight mentality at
mm-hmm.
such a young age. You know, so I know he'll always protect himself.
Yeah.
And,
so you were doing karate all through your professional career then, if you said you started when you were like 19 or something, right?
Yeah, you know, and I started because I had a pretty bad chip on my shoulder just because I got picked on so much when I was a kid being so little, and you know, I had a lot of anger, and I used karate to kind of channel that anger. You know, and I went through my younger 20s and getting in a lot of fights and kind of going down not really the wrong path, but just kind of finding those people that were the type of people that would pick on me,
mm-hmm.
you know, and, you know, so, you know, it had its point in its early years. And then once I moved to Woodward, and I was at Woodward for 11 years, you know, I would still practice now and then, but I wasn't actively going to class and
mm-hmm.
taking it. And then as soon as I moved back home to Rhode Island, I went back to my same instructor, my same school.
Oh, cool.
And got right back into it full tilt. So.
Nice. Can you relate anything that transfers over from, you know, some of that mindset or mind control or breath control? Does any of that carry over from your martial arts training onto the bike?
You know what I love the fact of finding your focus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I feel like everything has a different focus. You know, so for bike riding, if I'm about to try something, I like people being loud and cheering and all my friends getting behind it and loud music playing. But like if I'm at karate and if I'm about to punch through 8 inches of cement, you know, at a demo, I like it quiet. You know, it's a completely different focus, and that's what I love, is being able to kind of find your different focus in your body and kind of channel that energy in just the way you need it, you know, and, you know, having your body be able to differentiate like where that needs to go, you know, and, you know, it's the same as any other sport. It takes discipline, you know, it takes a lot of, being able to face adversities and persevere through them. You know, I mean, it's the same if you're fighting somebody that is a higher belt than you and you know they're better than you. I mean, you know you're going to go out there and you know you're going to get punched. You know it's going to hurt. You know there's a chance you can get knocked out. But you're willing to, and that's where it relates to bike riding. You're willing to you push beyond that fear barrier regardless of the consequences. And that's what's always been the same for me, and I think that's why I've always loved it, you know.
Wow, very cool. So we're going to switch gears here and start talking about some business. And you have a lot of business ventures, which is one of the many reasons why I'm really fascinated by you, is because I do have that kind of entrepreneurial mind. And so, you know, I follow you on Instagram and I see all these things that you post, and I'm just like, man, he does so much stuff, you know. So I want to try to touch on hopefully all of these topics if we have time. But the first thing I'm curious about is your foundation. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. So the K-Rob Foundation, it's a 501c3 nonprofit foundation, and we help the deserving children stay involved in athletics. So it was based in my hometown of East Providence, Rhode Island, but now it's spread to quite a bit of Rhode Island, almost quite a bit of the state. And and it's what we do is we help families keep their kids involved in sports. So if a kid can't afford to sign up for football, we'll pay the fees. We'll pay the fees on behalf of the family. So my foundation writes a check to the organization and pays for those fees for the family. You know,
Very
of
cool.
course they have to fit the guidelines. You know, as far as household income. And you know, if a kid wants to get into BMX, then we'll get him a BMX bike. You know, we'll get him the gear or whatever it is. If he wants to get into karate, you know, of course I'm a lot more willing to help the kids get involved in something that's, you know, not mainstream, of course, you know, so, and what's awesome is my whole goal with the foundation from day one was to get an outdoor public skate park in my hometown of East Providence. And we we applied for a grant through the city, and the grant got approved, and we start construction the end of this summer for the K-Rob Foundation skate park.
Oh, that's amazing, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So we'll have an outdoor skate park, and it's going to be in this park that, it's going to be set up right next to the brand new basketball court, and we're going to frisbee golf, and I have my hands are in kind of helping redo the whole entire park. So.
Oh, super cool, man. Dude, that's incredible. So I got to take a step back. How does one decide to start a foundation, and what do you have to do to do that? And this is coming from somebody that has absolutely no idea anything about foundations, except for I've heard somewhere through the grapevine that a lot of times they're kind of used as a tax shelter of some sort for people that have, made big incomes or whatever. But other than that, I really don't know anything about them.
That's definitely not my reason. And it's funny is, I started my foundation in a time in 2010 when I was kind of going through some financial struggles, coming out of the big, depression of '08 and, losing a lot of money with investments and things like that, that's when I started my foundation, and it was for me, like, I always wanted to do something. The whole time I was living in Pennsylvania, I just always wanted to do something to help kids. I love helping kids. I love spending time with kids. I love, kind of being a guidance for them to tap their life to its full potential, and so I always wanted to do some kind of a foundation, and I never could just put my finger on exactly what I wanted to do. But then once I moved back to Rhode Island, it all came in. Once I was back home, I knew exactly what we wanted to do. So my wife and I, we just, did all the right things. And I was I was on the board, I still am on the board of directors for Junior Sales Foundation, who's one of my best friends. And so I really would go to his events, and I would get there early, and I would just spend days kind of seeing how they do things and how they run things and how things are laid out. And, because he had one of the best foundations I'd ever experienced. So I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it to this level, and so I always talk to him about it. He's like, well, just do it. We'll just do it, and my wife and I were like, we're going to get this done. And then, I actually got a check from Junior for $1,500. I remember to start the foundation. So. Oh,
that's amazing, man. Good story.
Yeah.
Dude, and that's why I love having these conversations so much. Because like I said, I see you post stuff about it, and I can check out the website. But hearing you talk about that, and just knowing that, you wanted to do something, so you took time out of your day or your week or whatever and went to somebody else's foundation early to watch how they did it. I mean, dude, that's the kind of fucking rad, inspiring stories that I wanted to get out of this podcast. And that's the kind of things I hope people hear it in this and really take away from it, of when you want to do something, man, just go do it. Like, figure out, who you need to watch and draw from to get the inspiration to do it or the knowledge to do it, and then just do it, So good job, man.
I've always said, thank you very much. I've always said, you're a product in your environment, and whatever environment you're around, you're going to become part of that environment, and you're going to take in the actions of those people, so it's just kind of surrounding myself with inspiring people and leaders and people that selfless acts, and that's what I love being around. And with the foundation too, my whole thing was, I got approached by a couple other foundations that are already existing here. And they're like, well, why don't you just go through us? And I'm like, no, because you guys have administrative costs, and I don't want that. I want to be able to help the families directly, and I don't want to take a dime from this. I don't pay any staff. I don't pay. The only administrative costs I have are for copies and ink for the printer. And, or if we're putting on an event and you have to buy like party favors or whatever it is, then, then of course the foundation pays for it. But nobody has ever, we don't draw any checks. Nobody takes any money from it. I've never taken a dime from my foundation.
Nice. And so how is it funded? Is that just through donations? Do you get grants for certain things?
You start off small. We put up a booth at this festival, and and people, we raise money that way, and then now we have events. So we have our wine tasting. We just had our fifth annual wine tasting this year, and it's a lot of fun. It's a red carpet event. We have live acoustic music. We do a silent to live auction. We have some really cool auction items from some of my athlete friends, like Tony Hawk and Richard Fowler, and and Lonnie Paxton. You know, they all send gifts to auction off. And plus, I do a lot of like live. I mean, a lot of local auction stuff in the state of Rhode Island, just to kind of get back to my state. So, and then we have a family fun festival every year, which this year we had to postpone it to next year because the bike path that we use for the ride part of it is under construction, so we're holding off a year. But that's been our main source of income. And then now, as we've become stable and established, is when we've gotten donations from other organizations where, you know, people are giving us, you know, pretty good checks. You know, and we just got this grant for the Skatepark, which is huge. So. Awesome.
So kind of on that the same topic of inspiring people and setting good examples and stuff, the next sort of endeavor you're involved with is your speaking organization or company, whatever you want to call it. So go ahead and break down that one for me.
Yeah, so I travel to schools and businesses, and I do quite a bit of work with the Navy, and motivational speaking has just become a true passion of mine. You know, just being able to go out and speak about. I just take all the stories of my life, whether it's through just bike riding or facing just any adversity I've had to face in my life, and I tell the stories using my bike, using karate, and you know, a lot of interactive different skits with the crowd. And it's not, you know, my shows I put on about it. It's not about the tricks I do. You know, half the time, probably 90% of my shows don't involve a ramp. You know, I bring a flatland bike and I do some flatland tricks and I incorporate them to the subjects I'm talking about. You know, and I really love doing it. And I love, if I can change one kid's look on life, then I feel like I've succeeded with every speech I do.
That's awesome, man. I actually, funny story, a lot of people listening to this might know of a BMX rider named Brock Rayford. His mom was actually my 7th grade teacher, and I randomly got reconnected with her right before I got a job at Ride Magazine. And she was then the principal of the school that she taught me at. And I told her that I was about to move to California for this job, and she was like, "Oh, I'm the principal now at that school. You should come and talk to our kids." So a couple times, Brock Rayford's mom had me go to her junior high school and talk to the kids kind of about just setting goals and career paths. And, you know, you don't have to just work in the chemical plant in the small town that we grew up in and stuff. And, yeah, like you said, it's, you know, if you can, you know, see the spark in one kid's eye, it makes it all worth it. And it's a really, really rewarding feeling to do that.
You know, and that's the thing is, you know, bullying, obviously with anti-bullying is such a huge topic now, you know, so, and for me, having grown up with that and experiencing that, you know, doing, number one, being small, number two, doing a sport that nobody understood or accepted, you know, I had my, you know, I was youngest of 7 kids. We didn't have any money. You know, my dad worked his butt off to feed us, you know, so it was, you know, just kind of talking to kids about just finding that passion that we all have the same opportunities. Just some of us have to work a little harder to get to the goals, you know. And you know, I love, you know, same thing. I talk about goal setting. I talk about respect and attitude and hard work and trust and building trust with people and the importance of those things.
And it seems like for you, this again, this is kind of a lot of business talk I want to do here. So it seems like this. The speakings that you do, it seems like it's a bit more passion-driven rather than financially driven. Would that be a correct statement?
It is. I mean, but it's a lot like bike riding. You know, bike riding was never a financial thing. You know, never. And for bike riding, it was never about winning. It was never about a gold medal or some trophy or anything like that. It was about pushing the progression of myself and my sport. That's always what it's been about. And that's what speaking is. You know, sometimes I cry during some of my speeches, you know, because I talk about things that are personal in my life that I get emotional about. And, you know, sometimes I get done with a speech and I'm exhausted because I put so much passion and so much of my personal feelings into that speech, you know, that I leave there just spent, you know, and I love it. I love being able to tap into that.
Dude, I got to tell you, I even wrote a note about that in here, and I was trying to find a good place to throw it in, and now's the perfect time. And I fucking love that about you, man. There's been a couple of videos that I've seen online where you get either a little choked up or teary-eyed or cry or whatever. And I think it's amazing that you allow yourself to express those emotions and, show that side of you. And I'm a pretty emotional guy myself, and I definitely get this from my dad. If he ever listens to this, shout out to him for the ability to cry at any given moment. But, I find myself in the same situation where you're just, an emotional person and you let it all hang out there, and you don't mind if, a school full of kids see you cry as a grown man or whatever, man. So I respect the hell out of you for that, and I really think it's cool.
Thank you. I got nothing, I got nothing to hide, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. If I'm mad, you'll know it. And if I'm sad, you'll know it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no hiding it from me. I always say life's just about balance, and I can ride a bike pretty gnarly, and I know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can fight really well. I can hurt somebody if I need to, but I also sing country music, and I also sew really well. So for me, it's just about balance. I've never been about fitting some criteria or some guideline that a man is supposed to fit.
Yeah.
I'm me. And
I like that, man. It's funny because you use the analogy of sewing or some country music, which I do get down to some Garth Brooks, by the way. But I used to tell people that I'm a emotional guy and I like to hang out with my stepmom and bake muffins. You know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly.
I can relate, dude.
It's funny because I'm even like that with my kids. I'm just, I'm not the stern one. I'm the emotional, affectionate one. So it's funny. The country music thing, one of the best things Dennis McCoy ever said. Hilarious. We were doing Boom Boom Hawk Jam for Tony Hawk, and I was singing or something, and Dennis was like, "Wow, Kev, it's so amazing. You're so good at something that stinks so bad."
That's awesome. If you had to sing a country song in a karaoke bar, what would be your go-to song?
My go-to song has always been "Friends in Low Places."
Oh, of course, classic, man.
Yeah,
I think I might get some hate on this, but like I said, we're leaving it all hanging out there. In my opinion, one of the best songs ever written is "The River" by Garth Brooks, and that would be my go-to.
God, that is an amazing song. I love it.
Awesome.
One of the best, without a doubt, the best concert I've ever been to in my life is Garth Brooks.
Oh, that's amazing. So funny. I did not think that would come up in this conversation with you today.
Nope. That's awesome.
Cool. So we're going to move on to the next endeavor that you have. You've just got so much things that you're involved with. So you recently opened up a skate park. So tell me about that.
Yes. So Impact. So I had my original skate park back in the late 90s here in Rhode Island, East Providence, my hometown, and it's called Impact. And
I didn't know you had another one back in the day. That's cool.
Yeah, when I moved to Woodward, my partner took it over, and they kind of ran it into the ground. They didn't take care of it and shut down. Mm-hmm. And so when we started talking about moving back home, I was searching. I living at Woodward. I loved being there, but your life is about bikes, mm-hmm. And once my kids were starting to grow and, they weren't around their family. They didn't know who their aunts and uncles were, their cousins. I'm like, my wife and I were just kind of like, we got to go home. We went to California for a year, and we thought maybe that's it. We just do something different. And then we just said, it's time to go home. Mm-hmm. And I'm a very proud Rhode Islander. I love my state, and I love this place. And so we moved home, and yeah, sometimes that's all it takes to be inspired, mm-hmm. To have that. So I moved home, and then my wife and I remember sitting on a ferry coming home from Block Island one time, and I was like, it'd be cool to open a skate. She's like, wouldn't it be cool if you open a skate park? And I was like, I don't know if I want to get into that again. And but then then it just starts resonating in your head, But my whole thing was to change the misconception of a skate park. I didn't want that typical skate park dynamic. I didn't want that parent sitting out in the parking lot hoping their kids hurrying up and they're done, or they're sitting in some cold corner and it's a sketchy, dirty, grungy building. I wanted the parents to be just as involved in the kids' progression as the kid, you know, and I've accomplished that. You know, of course, I took the heat for it at the beginning. You know, skaters that come in and say, well, I have to wear a helmet. And yes, in my facility, you do have to wear a helmet because I know the repercussions of not wearing one. So, you know, and I don't, you know, safety is my number one thing, and safety and cleanliness. I like the park to be clean. We have wireless internet. You know, we have, you know, if the parents want to go walk out and watch their kids and stand next to the kids while they're trying stuff, I'm like, go ahead. You know, and
so
you know,
maybe that's the answer to the next question I had, which is, you know, it's no secret that public skate parks have traditionally not been a great business move as far as them, you know, being profitable, staying open for, you know, a long time or whatever. It's a tough business endeavor. So what made you think that you would be able to kind of overcome those statistics or whatever, or those odds, and make this successful?
You know, and for me, I just always thought changing the dynamic, you know, changing the format, you know, and that's all it was. I don't think that it's a matter of that it can't be done. It's just finding the way that it can be done, you know, and the traditional way just obviously doesn't work, you know, and I did that. I did the traditional way the first time, you know, and so for now I do it. It's more about classes, and, you know, so I have, you know, we have classes every week with, for BMX and skate and scooters, you know, and, you know, I get the people coming, and that's the other thing. I don't tolerate any negativity in the park at all. If I have somebody heckling a kid that's on a scooter, I'll throw them out, you know, because I'm not putting up with it. Just because you're going to judge that person because of the vehicle that they choose to express themselves on, you know, that has nothing to do with the scooter or the skateboard or the bike. That has to do with your attitude of you just being an a-hole, you know? So, you know, so I didn't want to do that. I knew it could be changed, you know, and, you know, even with my amateur stunt team. So I have a trick team made up of kids from the ages of 5 to 16, and I book 3 demos, so anybody can call and they book the demos, and I take the ramps to the setup. I set up the ramp. I announce the shows. The kids do this. We have practice every week. The kids learn how to do showmanship. They learn how to talk on a microphone. They learn how to perform in a show and put on a performance. And, you know, we go do the shows, and at the end of the shows, I always do a backflip over the kids, you know. But, you know, it's just giving the kids that positive experience, you know.
That's awesome, man. Damn, that's really cool. Again, you just keep unfolding new stuff. It's like you're just doing so much, and you know, you're inspiring so many people on a daily basis through all these things that you do. And I really hope that this interview we do can help touch even more people that don't get to see that on a regular basis. You know.
Yeah, you know, of course, it was a lot easier just riding a bike back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, there's definitely. We had a lot. My wife and I sometimes like, why do we take all this stuff on? You know, and,
so is she kind of a partner in all this, or does she have a traditional type of job, or is she just kind of helping run everything? She's
the man behind the curtain. Sure. You know, she has a traditional job. She actually just got a job working for our hometown of East Providence.
Okay.
And she's public relations and social media. So, and I do a lot of, you know, my foundation's in East Providence based, so it's all like one big circle, you know, so it's, you know, it kind of really benefits all of us. But,
well, cool. Maybe she can post up a tweet about this interview and shout out the podcast for us then.
Absolutely. She wears a lot of hats. So.
Cool. So talking again about the business side of the skate park, do you have any partners in that? I know you said you had a partner in the last one, or did you take out any loans, or was that, you know, your whole investment?
Nope, I have an investor. So
cool.
My daughter is a gymnast. She's she's a competitive national team gymnast. She actually just won Rhode Island State Championships. But
awesome, congrats to her.
Yep, thanks. And but her gym, Aim High, is owned by a friend of mine, Amy, and I've known Amy for years. You know, back from years ago. But she used to come to Woodward with the team and everything else, and but she's my investor, Aim High Academy. So
cool.
We're in this together, and they're not just a silent partner. We do this whole thing together. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah,
that seems like a good partnership with, you know, somebody else that's already involved with, you know, getting kids to be active and everything. It seems like a good fit.
Yeah, it really, you know, especially coming from, it's two of the most opposing worlds you can possibly imagine, you know, gymnastics and action sports.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived around it for 11 years being at Woodward, you know, so there's so many good things about it that I could see incorporating into action sports. And there's also so many great things about action sports that they could learn from us.
Yeah.
You know, so it was kind of mixing the best of both worlds.
Yeah. I mean, talking about some of the crossover, man, these guys, you know, Kyle Baldock, for example, like he's got just insane aerial awareness. And I've seen Ryan Gutler bouncing on the trampolines at Woodward, and, you know, he's got insane aerial awareness. Like knowing where your body's at in space and how to manipulate it and stuff, you know, whether that be on the trampoline or parallel bars or whatever, and then transferring that to the bike skills. Dude, there's tons of crossover there.
Oh, you know, big time, especially nowadays. I mean, we're not doing 1-footers and back hops anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is, you know, some of the stuff these guys are doing. You're spinning 1080s, you know, like this is, you know, 1260. You know, it's just nuts what guys are doing now.
Yeah,
you know,
I wish I had. I went to a couple of gymnastics classes when I was probably in kindergarten or something, and all I remember was just running and jumping into foam and thinking it was really cool. But damn, I wish I would have kept at it, because I would be a much better bike rider, and I would surely be a much better CrossFitter if I had been doing gymnastics my whole life.
Oh, I mean, some of the best athletes ever in their best physical condition are gymnasts.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Yeah, and I certainly wish I had the physique of some of these gymnast guys that I've seen too, man. They're just completely shredded and just strong as shit.
Oh, yeah, they're awesome. Yeah, it's amazing. My daughter, you know, she's crazy. She has an 8-pack. It's nuts. You know?
How old are your kids?
She can crank out like, my daughter is 10, and then Kevin Jr. is 9, and Riley's 4.
Okay.
And even Kevin with karate, like, we do our station night, like, he's sitting there cranking out, you know, like, you know, he's cranking out push-ups on a Bosu ball, and, you know, he hangs right in there and does it all.
That's awesome. So moving right along here, we've got grinds, which is your how would you describe that? I had a term that I wrote down to describe it. Let me go back to my notes here and see if this is a good word to describe it. Where did I put that? I would call it an integrated safety gear company. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Cool. So tell us about grinds.
The grinds are pants with built-in knee pads, hip pads, and tailbone pads, but they're discreetly placed in the pants. So you can't, you know, we have skinny jeans, we have regular jeans, we have khaki, chino style, but the pants you put on, and they have the pads built in. It's all machine washable. You don't have to remove the pads. And, you know, so many kids nowadays don't want to wear pads, which to me is ludicrous. You know, I see kids in the park riding, and they slam their knee, and they have a gash on their knee, and then 2 weeks later they come in and they're like, "Where you been?" Like, "Oh, my knee." I'm like, "Well, if you just had a pad on, you'd be still out there on the bike these last 2 weeks."
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, I just don't understand it. You know?
So where did this idea come from?
Well, so, you know, it's all made in China. You know, so we've had to do a lot of adjusting and go through, you know, a bad business partner, and, you know, it's definitely been your normal business hiccups, you know. And but one of my partners is Dr. David Chow.
In San Diego, right?
You know, yep. So he's my business partner with this. And
just to fill people in, he's a guy that basically does a lot of surgeries. Like, you know, you had all these arthroscopic surgeries. He basically helps heal and fix up a lot of athletes. Is that correct?
Yeah, he did a lot. I think he did about 38 of my procedures.
God dang.
Yeah, and he's one of my best friends. So,
cool.
he was also the San Diego Chargers head surgeon for 17 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's in partner. But we just did a co-branding deal with Strider, the balance bikes.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so we're really excited about that. We got grinds coming out that are sizes 2T to 5T for kids, and those just have knee pads built in. They don't have the hip and tailbone pad. But you know what's funny is I've been selling the adult ones. I've been selling to construction workers.
Oh,
so
wow.
Any guys that work with carpet or working on their hands or working on their knees and working, like, laying on their tailbone, you know, like, these are great. I don't have to stop and put my pads on. I can just wear these pants to work, you know, so.
Damn, is that something you ever thought about as you started up as an action sports brand? I mean, I never would have thought about it, but now that you're saying it, it's like ding, 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 like there's a huge market that you can now tap into.
Exactly. You know, so we're still, you know, with that company, it's definitely going in the right direction. It's all doing well. It's just, we're still putting the feelers out, you know, and, like Steve Jobs is always like my inspiration, for how long it took him to get Apple going. You know? So, but I'm really happy with it. And, the progression of it's been great.
Yeah. So are you pretty hands-on with the company right now, or do you have other people sort of running everything? How's that breakdown work?
No, my wife, Robin, pretty much runs that company for sure.
Okay.
So we have our designer who's one of our close friends that lives down the street. We have a new designer, Adrian. So myself and her and my wife Robin and Dr. Chow kind of do the whole thing. So
awesome.
But Robin definitely is the motor behind that. So.
Yeah. Cool. And just because I'm so curious about the business end of things, and of course you don't have to answer this if you don't want, but would you be able to share how that equity is split up and how the company is sort of split?
Yeah, it's 60-40, so in my favor. So.
Okay. And Dr. Chow is the 40?
Yep.
Cool. Interesting. And so I was going to ask, where do you see the company going? But it sounds like we're still a little bit unsure right now. And again, man, that construction worker type market, that's really interesting. And, I almost, as you're saying that, I'm thinking like Carhartt or something, which, in Europe is sort of a lifestyle, like cool hip brand. And over here, it's like rugged outdoors wear or whatever. So that might just be like different marketing strategies, different verticals, and different markets you can tap into with the same product, just marketed different ways, And
that's the thing too is, I'm actually working with a designer company, I don't want to say who, but out of New York City, and with we're working on a licensing deal. And they're setting up a meeting with me with Home Depot. So,
cool.
Yeah, so it's, it's just keep plugging away at it. Just stay persistent, stay patient, and that's really the key answer to every success story. If sometimes things are going to work out for a shot, second shot, third shot, fourth shot, but you just have to be persistent and you have to stay even keel and you have to be patient. And if you believe in something, I really feel that way. If you believe in something from your heart, you're going to make it happen. If you're doing it for financial reasons only, then your passion's not in it. So the money will come. It's like bike riding. The money came, but it never was my focus. It was always about just being for the love of being on my bicycle. Yeah.
So you were talking about a licensing deal. It made me think of Shark Tank. Have you ever tried to get on Shark Tank with the brand?
We did. Years back we tried, and we actually recently had a conversation about maybe try it again. We thought that would be a perfect fit for us.
Yeah, I mean, especially with you being a pro rider and stuff, I mean, why wouldn't they want somebody to come on there that can wow them? And, even if you went out there, broke some bricks with your karate moves, did a Miami hopper real quick on the flatland bike or something, and then showed them a video clip of you winning X Games, like they'd be like, "Damn, this guy's serious,"
Yeah, exactly. You had to do a decade, land, bake some cement, show a video.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Oh man, cool. So we're getting a little bit close to the hour mark here, and I don't want to keep you too long, but I do have a few more questions if you have some time. Are you in a rush? Are we good?
No, we're good.
Awesome, cool. So, again, I'm just super curious about business stuff, and I always want to respect your boundaries. So if you don't want to talk about anything, please let me know. I won't be offended in any way. But I'm really curious. You have your hand in so many different things. If you were to make kind of a pie chart of where your income streams come from, would you be able to break that down and help shed some light on where you're kind of drawing from right now?
Yeah, still sponsorship. So, I've been fortunate that, I play again now in Red Bull and everybody's kind of stuck by me. I'm no longer with Target. But it's a great relationship, just kind of ran its course. I'm still with Hoffman Bikes, and will be for the rest of my life. But, it's mainly from shows, and the motivational speaking stuff is my number one draw.
Cool.
So, and they pay real well, and I do a lot of them for free because people, if it's for a certain organization that can't afford the money, then of course I never say no.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because I know just from talking to other guys that do similar shows, I know that working with schools specifically, they don't have a lot of money. I mean, everybody knows the school systems are broke and teachers don't get paid a lot. So I can't imagine that the schools would have enough money to pay you to make a viable living. So on the ones that do pay well, who are paying those and who's footing that bill?
It's always the PTA or the PTO that usually foot the bill.
Okay.
They have different ways of raising the money. They have different grants that they can apply for to get the money.
Mm-hmm.
So the number one thing for my presentations is it's not, like I said, it's not just a show. I come in with tools. I give them great information, but I also talk about different ways to implement different tools they can use to implement those subjects that I've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like, we need to be nice people. See you later. It's well, you can start doing this to help implement that.
Mm-hmm.
So I spoke at the National PTA Convention last year in Austin, Texas, a couple weeks after X Games, and that was one of their number one things. They said, what's great is you're giving us some things that we can use after you leave.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just wow, and you left, and like, well, what she care about us? He's like, and a lot of the schools, a lot of the kids that follow me, they'll follow me on Instagram and they'll say, oh, I was at the school. You follow me? I follow those kids, and then I follow all those kids and I keep an eye on them. And if they start posting something negative or if they're using cuss words, I'll call them out on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had teachers that contact me and say, thank you so much. That's such a grassroots way of doing this, so I'm really personally invested in every single one that I do.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's cool.
It's not just for, it's not just about making money.
Yeah.
But, of course it involves sitting down and making phone calls and living on the phone and the computer. But
yeah, how do you manage your time with all these different projects and you're handed so many hats?
It is definitely a fine preparation. It's really, really, you get so good at timing. But I have 3 kids too. So
yeah.
My daughter has gymnastics. I plus teach karate, and my son goes to karate, and my youngest son, Riley, he wants to be on his bike, and he wants to be at the park, and, finding time to make sure, and that's the thing, is just doing things that they can be involved in as well. So, for the skate park, my boys can come with me, and they can be with me, we can spend that time together.
Yeah. So going back to kind of our pie chart here, so you said sponsorships and the speaking engagements and stuff. Is kind of the main draw. Are you drawing anything now from Grinds or the skate park at this point?
No. So Grinds, no. Skate park's doing good, and we got through almost at the first year mark.
Cool.
I had a fantastic winter, but that winter money has to get me now through the summer.
Right.
And summer's a slow time, but summer camp. We have weekly summer camp, so. And these shows that I've been doing with the kids is again, it's another grassroots way of kind of advertising for the shows, for the summer camp. So by going to each of these, whether it's at YMCA's or Cub Scout meetings and things like that, it's at the places where these parents are looking for a place for their kids to go. And so while I'm there, I give out all the information about summer camp, and they see what impact gives. Like, wow, look at this. We have a team of young kids 5 years old. They're out here performing in a show. Like, this is what you can get at Impact. This is amazing, So, just kind of selling what we give. And unfortunately, what's great is I have such a good support system of all the local media here in Rhode Island. They really support me, well, and they help me out, promoting everything. So,
yeah. That's definitely a plus when you have the media on your side to help, show what you're doing as something positive. And obviously that's not hard to do with what you're doing. But I can see, if the news crew comes out there and shows what your park's doing, obviously that's just basically free promotion for you guys, and it's just going to draw more people there. So that's really cool.
It's kind of even like the foundation, with our Family Fun Festival. Like last year I had 6,000 people at the event, and we have 80 vendors. We have gymnastic competitions. Gymnastics demos, karate demos. We had I do my Wisdom to Youth contest, which is my throwback 80s style BMX contest. We have music, but people don't have to pay a dime to go to that event.
Mm-hmm.
All the money that I raise is from sponsorship and from vendor fees and things like that. So I'm not always, trying to nickel dime everybody. Like, mm-hmm. All right, give me some more money. I want people to just kind of go experience things. We're making the money without them even knowing, and they're having a good time.
Yeah, that's cool. So I assume you have somebody running the skate park and working there at this point?
Yeah, I have a great staff. So, I'm still there constantly, and keeping my hands on. I'm still in there sometimes on my hands and knees scrubbing toilets and cleaning bathrooms because I'm really OCD about that kind of stuff, mm-hmm. and I have to bring the staff in. Like, no, this is how you clean the toilet,
mm-hmm.
And I really thank Gary Ream for that, and my dad, is. Gary always said with Woodward, he's like, no, you do every job, but whatever business you own, you do every job that's involved in that business. So nobody can ever question you and say you don't understand what it's like.
Mm-hmm. That's some good advice right there, man. I like that.
Yeah, and I take that to heart. And my dad definitely gave me my work ethic. I've never been one to like have somebody carry my bikes or do this or bring mm-hmm. my stuff. Like, I'll do it myself. And people say, "Oh, why are you going to do it yourself?" I'm like, because if my dad told me ever not, he'd kick my rear end. So,
very cool. So, another question, sort of on the financial end of things. And again, I don't ask this kind of stuff to be nosy. I ask this because I want to learn more what other people do, so that I can, draw from their experiences and become better myself. So you're somebody that obviously made some pretty good money over the years with, winning contests, sponsor endorsements, that kind of things. So at some point you had a lot of money, and I'm curious, did you have anybody help you learn to manage that money once you started acquiring it? Or is that something that you feel like you were always good at, or that maybe you're not good at? Maybe, what is your take on that?
I think that's one of the big problems with professional athletes in general.
Right.
And not just pro BMXers. I mean, from football players.
For sure.
You have all these young people, especially in our world, at least, the great thing about active sports is we don't have any, like, guidelines and rules and curfews and things like that. The worst thing about active sports is we don't have any guidelines or rules or curfews or anything like that, So
yeah.
There's no discipline. You have BMX guys that are in their late 30s and they're still living like they're 23-year-old kids with their buddies in apartments and,
right.
But eventually real life's going to come and slap you in the face.
Exactly. And so you're somebody that I see that isn't living like that, and that's why I want to ask you these questions, is because, again, I want to model myself after people that aren't living like they're still children. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I owe it to my kids to give them a good life, and I'm not living like Dave Mira or Jamie Beswick, but I got a good life off of BMX, mm-hmm. and I lost some money with the 08 depression, and a bunch of investments with real estate, and you think you're doing all the right things, which you are, and then just kind of a stroke of bad luck, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But I come from a family that is all about facing adversity and conquering those challenges, and so for me, just buckling down and kind of having a plan. My wife and I really just sat down and tried to construct a plan. Like, all right, when am I going to retire? I'm going to retire in 3 years. We got to start planning this out,
mm-hmm.
And let's create a bunch of things that we love and we're passionate about and throw them against the wall. One of them's going to stick,
mm-hmm.
And what's great is now they're all starting to stick, So, but the only bad thing about that is when they all start to stick, it takes about every single minute of your time.
Yeah.
So. But I'll sleep later.
Yeah. Yeah. So during that time, did you have anybody besides your wife kind of mentoring you at all, or helping you learn how to manage those finances or anything?
You try to reach out to the right people, and you try to think that you're doing what you know is right, and especially the time I came up, it's so different now. There's so much less money in the industry now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I was fortunate enough to come up in one of the best times financially for BMX,
mm-hmm.
And And, in some years it was, it's crazy to look back at the kind of money you make doing it. And, but it's, the more money you have, the more money you spend. It's old cliche, but it's so true. More money, more problems.
Right.
Like it really, it doesn't matter if you're making $100 or if you're making $400,000. Just doesn't have the same problems. They're just at different scales.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's important for especially there's so many young kids in the sport now. They're not, and back in our day, it was, you were in your 20s and stuff when you started making it, and kids nowadays are in their young teenage years and they're getting a lot, they're getting pretty good sums of money. I think it's really important to set that up with a financial advisor to kind of give you the right guidelines of what you should do with that money. Because it doesn't last forever. You're making what most people make over the course of 50 years in their real life. You're making that in 10 years. So that's a lot of responsibility.
For sure. So I actually do a bit of real estate investing myself, and luckily for me, I got in after the crash in 2008. I didn't buy my first place until 2010, and I since have bought now 5 more rental units. So you said that you did some deals that went south during that. Could you elaborate on any of those deals that went bad after the crash or anything?
A couple rentals. I had a couple rentals, and I had a couple investment properties. I had some land, and it just and they were peaking. It was. They were making great money, and you want to hang on, hang on to it a little longer, and then the bubble burst. And you just took a hit, but. So
when that happened, did you have to sell stuff off, or were they just vacant at that point?
I got rid of everything.
Okay.
Yep, I got rid of everything. Yep.
Okay.
So at that point, it was, all right, go back to the basics, back to what I know how to do, and keep it simple, simplicity, and still, Dave Ramsey's, my wife really got me into following Dave Ramsey, and
who is he? I'm not familiar with the name.
You can hear his radio shows, or I think he has a podcast, and but he's a financial advisor.
Okay.
Just has such great advice. So we became big Dave Ramsey fans.
Nice. I'll have to look him up.
Fans. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Cool. Well, sweet. I think that's about all the business questions I have for you. So I'm going to wrap things up with a handful of quick hits. And these are questions that I like to ask each of my guests in the show. And I just think it's really interesting to ask all the people that I talk to the same group of questions to kind of get a different perspective on things. So my first quick hit for you, and of course you can talk longer if you want, or these can be shorter answers, however you feel. But can you tell me about a time in your life when you've either been physically or mentally exhausted and just at your breaking point?
Yes. 2 times. Right before I moved to Woodward, and that was when I had my skate park, and I just felt like, all right, this isn't where I want to go with this. And then I moved to Woodward, and that all changed. And right before I moved home from Woodward, so right before I retired, and it was really Brazil during the whole global expansion for X Games. It was at the Brazil, the Fazagul Falls contest, and I remember riding Mega practice, and I was having a blast. I was going 22 feet and just having so much fun. And then the contest started, and I sat up on the deck thinking, I just do not want to be here. This is not where I want to be at right now. And I'm hearing Colton Satterfield and these rad guys next to me, and they're just all pumped and everything else. And I'm just like, man, I've forgotten more places than you guys have been. And so that was kind of a tough spot for me, and that was really when I started thinking about retiring and wrapping my head around that. And, it was depressing for a little while, but,
is that one of the contests where you crashed really bad?
Yeah, I got knocked out and pretty bad concussion. So,
man, it's so crazy how when your mind's not there, your body just does not follow suit.
Yep. Exactly.
Damn, it's funny the way you say that too. Of like, you were setting up on deck and you just felt like you weren't supposed to be there or whatever. I actually remember distinctly the night that TJ Lavin crashed in Vegas at the Do Tour. I was on deck, and I don't know if you remember the day before that contest, his friend had crashed in his backyard and went into a coma. And I knew that he was really close to him. I think his name was Caesar. I never met the guy, but I was on deck and I asked TJ like, "How's it going?" And he's like, "Man, I don't know. I just keep thinking about my buddy, and he's in the hospital, and I don't know, man. I just don't feel right. I don't feel like I'm all here. I don't feel like I should be here," or something to that extent. And sure enough, 20 minutes later, he drops in for his run, does a trick that he's done a million times, and crashes, and now he's in a coma. And man, it just goes to show you how much of a mental game physical sports can be.
Oh, it is. It's so much mental game, and. I mean, of course, with injuries too, like on my shoulder, it was over a year of battling injuries, and then I'm all fixed and I get in a car accident and destroys my shoulder again, and you're like, well, come on, and then people start talking like Robinson's done and everything else.
Yeah.
And, so I think with any professional athlete, with anybody who you're going to face those adversities that are they're magnified because they're under such judgment, so, but.
Okay, Rob, can you tell me, how do you decompress? You've got your hand in so many different things. We've already talked about you've got to meticulously schedule your time blocks. So how do you decompress?
Working out is a big part of my decompression, whether it's karate or just working out with my trainer. That's a huge part of my decompression. And bike riding is definitely my safe place. My bike has never let me down. It's always been there for me. It's my go-to. But my number one for sure is my kids. My kids are my decompression. No matter what's going on, no matter what craziness is happening, no matter what it is, business ventures or setbacks or adversities and anything I'm doing, I can just play with my kids and do things with it. I spend the whole day with my kids today, and it just puts you in such a happy place.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. When do you feel like you get hit by inspiration or ideas the most? Inspiration and ideas, they come from inside of me. They come from my internal device that's built inside of me. That my whole life is always, and it's great is you get to start seeing it in your own kids. My kids, I start seeing them doing things that are just really creative, and it's not something that's normal. And you're like, well, why are you doing that? I'm like, I don't know. My daughter's really creative, and I just watch her do these things, and I'm like, that's so inspiring to watch. And my wife's the same way. Just has such a creative mind, and and like I said, I've always drawn off of people with, not people that are successful, but people that have that same heart and drive. I have some military friends that are really, really close friends, and that the selfless act that they do is such a drive for me. Very cool. So you've talked a bit about your hardships and kind of overcoming things. If there was a movie made about your life, what would be the one hardship or obstacle that you overcame in order to achieve your success, as kind of the crux of the movie here?
Better way for me to put that is, I feel like I lived the Rocky story.
What do you mean by that?
I started off, my life is played out with all the Rocky movies, and I started off as the 1,000,000 to 1 shot, and I really did. I was the guy getting second to last at the contest, not making the finals, and people tell me I was never going to make it, and never going to win a contest, and never going to make the finals, or never be on the podium or anything. And then, then went through a little period of time there where I was lost for a little while, and I got addicted to Vicodin and pain pills and checked myself into rehab, and just, it's stuff that people have no idea about,
Yeah, I had no idea.
And going into 09 X Games with, you know, it was right before that is when I went through all this and had a dislocated ankle, and I come back and I win X Games, you know, and then the day I got home from X Games, the next day I was at an AA meeting, you know, for, you know, and, you know, it's all those things, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know that about you at all. Do you talk about that in your speeches and stuff as well?
I do sometimes. If it's, you know, if I'm in a school with elementary kids, I don't get into that. But
right.
If it's adults or if it's a Navy or things like that, then yeah, I talk about the, you know, facing those adversities, you know. Because, you know, for me, it was recognizing that something wasn't right, and you know, and since that day, with any surgery, I don't take any kind of narcotic painkiller to this day.
Wow.
So, and that was quite a few years ago.
Yeah. So on this topic, now that you brought up the the fact that you did abuse some narcotics at some point, I've got to ask this, and I feel super awkward saying it because I have so much respect for you, and it feels like such a weird question to ask, but I feel like people are going to want to know, when you were getting so big and jacked up and gained that 100 pounds of working out over all those years, did you ever use any performance-enhancing drugs?
No, I didn't.
All right. Thank you. Again, I feel so awkward asking you that right now because, like I said, I have a ton of respect for you, but it felt like it needed to come out at that point because otherwise people would just be wondering it.
No, I went back and forth with the idea of growth hormone and D-ball for a little while, and but and it took me 17 years to do that.
Right.
It wasn't an overnight, toss poppus.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I know, to each their own. I don't judge anybody for what they do. So
yeah. So, last question here: do you have a favorite quote or a favorite piece of advice that anybody's ever given you?
Yeah, I do, and it was my dad who said to me when I was young. My dad said, "You be a kid as long as you can. You be respectful, and you do your work, but you be a kid as long as you can." And I took that to heart. He said, you spend your whole life, everybody tells you have to hurry up and you have to get married, have kids, before you turn 30 years old. He's like, and then you spend the next 60 years, tied down to that, So he said, just be a kid as long as you can. And it's the best advice he ever gave me.
Awesome. And now at 43 years old, do you feel like you're still a kid?
Oh my God, my kids are like, Dad, you're just a kid in an adult body.
Awesome. I love it, man. I love it. Well, thank you so much for this, man. This has been really, really insightful. I learned a ton and got a lot of answers to questions that I had. Like I said, I've been following you online for a while, and I've known you from contests here and there, but I've never really had a deep conversation with you. So this has been really great. And
well,
to wrap,
you're gonna let me do the honor of. Are you going to Austin?
Yeah.
All right. Well, dinner's on me. I'm taking you out for dinner.
Awesome, dude. I would love it.
Absolutely.
So before we wrap up, do you want to go ahead and plug any social networks or websites or anything that you want people to go to either connect with you or check out your different business ventures or anything like that?
Yes, absolutely, for sure. KRobFoundation.org is my foundation website. Also, under construction right now, I have a whole new website, KRobBMX.com. It's under construction right now, but all my businesses and all my other websites are going to be all under that umbrella.
Perfect.
The K-Rob BMX. Cool. And Play Again Now. Everybody check out Play Again Now. It is an amazing product.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out for sure.
So, yeah, it's playagainnow.com, and they're on social media as well at Play Again Now. And I'm at K-Rob BMX on Twitter and Instagram. So.
Awesome. Well, I will have all those links in the show notes on the website, and that is theexpansionprojectpodcast.com. The show does have some social network sites, but to be honest with you, it's so new, or this podcast is so new that I haven't really started using them. I set them all up thinking that I would use it if I need to, but right now everything's just going through my personal social networks. So you can follow me at FatTonyBMX on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and if you want to type in .com after that, that'll work as well. And once again, everybody, thank you guys for all the positive feedback on the show. It's really been great. And if you want to keep helping us out, please go to iTunes and leave a review and give a 5-star rating. And then, of course, go ahead to the expansionprojectpodcast.com. Click on the Amazon banner, bookmark that banner, use that anytime you buy stuff. I know you guys buy stuff on there all the time. I sure do. I got the free 2-day shipping with the Prime account, and I seriously order everything on there. So go check that out. And I think that is about it for today. So signing off, K-Rob, thanks again so much, and I will see you in Austin at X Games.
Thanks so much, buddy. Have a great night. I appreciate it.
All right, take care. Bye.